It was a family business, that kind of thing. Tradition, legacy, the promise that one day all of this will be yours. Except that one day never came. And what no one said out loud was that the business had been in the red for a long time. A very long time. Then came the crisis. Sales dropped, debts with suppliers, overdue rent. They called me in a hurry. I still remember my mom's voice on the phone. Nathan, without you, we're going to lose everything. And I went, left my job, my stability, my plans to start my own business. Threw it all away, thinking I was doing the right thing, because when you hear the word family, it feels like saying no is forbidden. I arrived to find chaos. The finances were a disaster. The storage was packed with unsold products, and no one, absolutely no one, wanted to face the truth. My brothers? Nowhere. They only showed up to give opinions and complain. And my father? Stuck in old ways, as if the world still worked like it did in the 90s. But I rolled up my sleeves, worked harder than I ever had, went through the books, renegotiated with suppliers, cut costs, revamped the marketing, updated the website. I barely slept, ate poorly, lived with my mind constantly spinning. But little by little, things started to move. And every time I thought about giving up, my mother would come with that emotional speech. You're the hope of this family, my son. And I believed her, because back then, I still thought we were all in the same boat. Little did I know, some were rowing forward, and others were quietly poking holes in the bottom. After that difficult conversation with my parents, where I basically begged for a chance, I dove headfirst into the family business. The workshop was falling apart. Papers everywhere, dead up to our necks. It was almost a death sentence. But I didn't see just a pile of bills. I saw the history of my family. Every oil stain on the floor had meaning. Every lost customer was a name that once trusted us. And I wasn't ready to let all that go. The first few months were insane. I practically camped out at the workshop. I slept on the office couch, woke up with a sore back, and went straight to changing oil or fixing engines. I learned the hard way how to negotiate with suppliers, renegotiate debts, deal with difficult customers, and cut costs without killing the business. I was the owner, manager, mechanic, cleaner, and team therapist, all at the same time. And you know what was crazier? My parents started showing up more at the workshop. At first, just to take a look. Then, they came more often. They didn't get their hands dirty much, but they loved making a point of saying they always believed it could be saved. It was funny because just months before, they were ready to sell everything and disappear. But that was fine, I let them. After all, it was theirs too, right? Little by little, things started to turn around. I managed to close a partnership with a ride-sharing app that needed quick maintenance for drivers. That gave a boost to the cash flow. Then, I started promoting the workshop on Instagram. I posted before and after pictures of repairs, shared simple maintenance tips. The account blew up. Customers from neighboring areas started coming. People who had never heard of us. The workshop went from a forgotten place to a local reference. It was at this point that I started to delude myself a little. I admit, I thought recognition would come naturally, that my parents would look at me and say, "Thank you," or maybe just a simple, "You did this." But it didn't come. On the contrary, it seemed like the more the workshop grew, the more they wanted to take back control of everything. They started voicing opinions on everything again, but without actually getting involved. It was as if now that the boat wasn't sinking anymore, they wanted to be the captain. And I was just the guy who rowed when no one else wanted to be on the boat. I held back, I swallowed my pride. I thought, fine, family is like that, let it go. But there was one thing that really hurt. One day, my dad called me for a chat. I thought it was something serious, maybe a recognition. Who knows, even to formally talk about a partnership. But no, he said he was thinking of bringing in my cousin to help with management. He has a degree in business, he said. He'll bring more professionalism. Man, the cousin he was talking about is the same one who spent his whole life mocking my hard work, saying that being a mechanic was for people who didn't succeed. And now, out of nowhere, he was a solution? But I took a deep breath. Again, and I tried to stay calm. If it was good for the business, I'd agree. But in practice, that cousin did nothing. He showed up late, left early, spent all day on his phone. And when someone complained, guess what? Oh, he's still getting the hang of it, my parents would say. But with me, there was no getting the hang of it. I was thrown into the fire and had to put out the fire alone. Still, I kept going, because I believed in it. The workshop was my mission. I had plans. I wanted to expand, maybe open another branch, even start mechanic school for young people in tough situations. But then came the blow. One random Saturday, my dad called me for a alignment meeting. I thought it was about expansion, new ideas, but it was something else. They had hired a consultant, and this consultant recommended changes in the company's structure. According to them, I was too emotionally involved, and that was interfere with decision-making. I just stared at the two of them, my mom and dad, talking to me like I was just some employee, like I hadn't slept at the workshop, renegotiated debts, worked with grease on my hands every day. And then the bomb dropped. We've decided it's best for you to take some time off. Focus on other things. The workshop will continue under different management for now. That sentence hit me like a ton of bricks. Different management. That was it. They were removing me, pushing me away from the place I had brought back to life with my own sweat. I was speechless. I think I gave a nervous half laugh, half sad. I looked them in the eyes, searching for any hesitation. There was none, only coldness, no gratitude, no love, just a decision made. I stood up, said, okay, walked out of the room, grabbed my stuff, and left. They didn't even call me back, didn't try to justify it. To them, I had been useful, and now I was no longer needed. I drove aimlessly for hours, ended up in a high spot in the city where I could see all the lights down below, and I stayed there, sitting on the hood of my car, with a lump in my throat that I didn't know if it was anger, sadness, or just pure emptiness. I had saved what they were ready to bury, and now they were burying me. But deep down, something was starting to change in me, a spark, a desire to turn the page. Because if I could save a broken business, I could rebuild myself. The first days after the silent firing felt like walking in the dark. I woke up early out of habit, and only after a few minutes did I remember I didn't need to go to the workshop anymore. And when I remembered, it was like getting punched in the stomach again. The workshop was still my emotional home, but physically, I had been kicked out of it. I won't lie, I cried. I cried alone in the car, in the shower, even at the supermarket. There was so much bottled up. It wasn't just the work they had taken from me. It was the trust. It was the history. It was a certainty that, in the end, family would always recognize our effort. But that didn't happen. For a while, I thought about disappearing. You know that cliche of getting on a random bus, disappearing in a small town, and starting over? Yeah, I wanted that. But then something inside me spoke louder. You've come this far. You won't be the guy who gives up when he's kicked out. You'll be the guy who comes back with his own empire. That's when I started looking at everything I had done in the workshop through different eyes. I had given the business a new face, created a more agile customer service system, built a committed team, raised a loyal clientele. And a lot of it had been with my own methods. I had created a new culture there, a modern and human way of running the service. But that part was all in my head, and that's when it gave me an idea. I grabbed my old notebook, the one I always carried in the pocket of my overalls, and started writing everything down. Processes, customer service ideas, workflow management, stock control, supplier negotiation, everything. I spent days writing, organizing, refining. When I realized it, I had something in my hands that seemed much more than just a workshop plan. It was almost a replicable business model. That's when the seed for my new project was born, starting my own workshop from scratch. But not just that. I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to build something modern with a technological touch, but still soulful, a place where the customer wasn't just another number, where the mechanic had a voice, had respect, where you didn't have to be family to be valued. but I had no money. And everything I had saved had gone to pay my parents' workshop bills, including part of the money they used to renovate the space, which had come straight from my reserve. No contract, no receipt, just trust. Yeah, so I started slow. I talked to friends, ex-customers, partners, told them my idea, showed them the project. And to my surprise, the response was incredible. A lot of people offered to help in some way. A designer friend made my logo for free. An ex-customer, who owned a small gas station chain, offered me a corner of his land to start as an express workshop. Even a guy from the app one had partnered with before agreed to refer me as an exclusive mechanic for the platform if I registered my CMPJ. That's how my new workshop was born, KM0, a name that meant new beginning, and at the same time was all about cars, roads, and journeys. At first, it was just me, a ramp, and 2 toolboxes. But with every returning customer, every compliment, every referral, I felt like I was on the right path. And more than that, I was building something of my own. For the first time, I was the owner not just of the work, but of the history. Meanwhile, I started hearing from social media that the old workshop had started to unravel. Customers were complaining about the service. The admin cousin didn't last 2 months. Some of the employees I had trained were quitting. And, ironically, my parents were trying to fix everything on their own, like they did in the beginning, but now without me to put out the fire. I didn't wish them any harm, I swear, but I didn't feel sorry for them either. They made their choices, and the consequences came. One day, I was surprised by a message from my mom. Short, direct, "Can we talk?" I took a deep breath before replying, and after a while I agreed. We met at Neutral Cafe, outside the workshop area. She came alone. Red eyes, a worn-out look. She said things were tough, that she missed me, that she didn't know my cousin was so irresponsible, that maybe they had been too hard on me. Maybe, I thought, but I let her speak. Then came the request. "Don't you want to come back? The workshop needs you." I stayed silent for a while. Then I spoke. "Nah, I'm not the same guy who left there humiliated. Today I have my own business. A business I built on my own. I have no space to go back, because now I know my worth." She lowered her eyes and just said, "I'm sorry." And for the first time in a long time, I felt that those words were real. But I didn't need them anymore, because at that moment, I had already forgiven myself. I had already turned the page. I left that cafe feeling lighter. Not out of revenge, but out of freedom, because I understood that I didn't need their approval to be someone. I already was. And as I walked to my car, my phone rang. It was a new customer asking for a quote. I smiled, answered, and said, "This is KM0. How can I help you?" When I opened my own workshop, KM0, I had no idea that everything would grow so fast. In less than a year, we had already built a loyal clientele. Word of mouth was working like never before. And most importantly, I was truly happy. This time, everything was mine. My name, my idea, my way of serving. I made sure to set up the workshop differently. Total transparency, personalized service, live videos showing the work to customers, things no one was doing around here. People loved it. They started posting on Instagram, tagging the workshop, recommending it to friends. And then, guess who got bothered? Of course, my older brother, the genius of management who kicked me out of the family business. I started noticing some strange things happening. A customer of mine came back the next week saying, "Nathan, your brother is trying to do the same thing at the family workshop. He even copied your team's uniform. But it's weird. Looks like cheap imitation." I laughed, but it was nervous laughter. I went to check it out for myself. I entered their social media with a fake profile, and there it was. Now with total transparency, watch your service live. Even the logo looked like a worse version of ours. They had the audacity to film stories inside the workshop with shaky phone, the mechanic looking lost at the camera, and the customer with a "this is embarrassing" look on their face. But the worst part was a video they posted trying to go viral. A reel where my brother appeared all excited saying, "Here, We work with the truth, just like those people from the new generation, but with more experience. Man, people went crazy in the comments. Haha, is he a YouTuber now? Try being Nathan, man. Only thing missing is changing the name to KM-1, ha ha ha. The video went viral, but in the wrong way. It became a meme in the city. Even a mechanic WhatsApp group was making fun of it. A local influencer did a react video comparing the two styles, ending with, "If it were me, I'd take my car to Nathan's workshop. At least they don't try to fool me with forced performance." That was a final blow. The attempt to copy my idea went so wrong that it completely destroyed the image of my family's workshop. The few remaining clients started to distrust everything. What was supposed to be a reinvention turned into a joke, a public disaster. But me? I stayed quiet. I didn't need to say anything. People saw who was original and who was trying to hitch a ride. My brother disappeared for a while. They say he went on a trip, maybe to escape the embarrassment. A few weeks later, I received a message from him. Short, blunt, "You won, man. Good luck." I read it, took a deep breath, and just thought, winning wasn't the plan. I just wanted respect. But it was okay. Life turned, and justice came with a taste of irony. They kicked me out as if I were dead weight. I got up, went my way, built something better. And today, even those who try to bring me down end up stumbling on their own arrogance. KM0 became a symbol of renewal. People from outside the city started coming to us for service. And the craziest part? Client from the family workshop started seeking me out. They said, "We realize the heart of the business was always you. Do you know what that is? Recognition. Not the forced kind, but the kind that comes from the people, from the streets, from the truth." And right then, in that moment, I understood I didn't just regain my self-esteem. I regained my story. And now it was only mine.